name's Eric Peterson. I'm the founder and CEO of Linksee. We're a bookmarking and social search platform for web and mobile. And let me tell you a little bit about the problem we solve and the value that we're capturing. So back in the 1950s, a communications theorist named Marshall McLuhan observed that as the number of networks that people are connected to grows, the amount of information grows exponentially as opposed to scalarly. Furthermore, he noted that there's essentially a threshold in human psyche above which we kind of can't cope with this increasing amount of information. Now, he was making these theories back in, looking back historically at the telegraph and the railroad. And I think now, in the age of the internet, where social networks are popping up like mushrooms overnight, we can all agree that we're well into this range of threshold. So, luckily, we've created these natural processes to help us cope with this information overload. And one form of this is what we call curation. Your newspaper editors determine what news is fit to print. Google uses an algorithm to determine what links are most relevant to your keyword searches. And your social networks will use their own algorithms to determine what's most engaging, what's most interesting to you. However, the most important part of the curation process is when you decide that something is actually relevant for your purposes. It's looking at a piece of content, knowing what your intention is, and deciding you're either going to consume that or store it away. However, we're in the habit of essentially throwing this most valuable piece of the process away. So let me explain that a bit further. There are a couple of ways in which we as users curate information. One is just in the process of our day-to-day web travels. We'll look at something, we'll decide to look at it, or we'll decide it's not for us right now. And then we'll either consume it or leave it alone and just continue on with our business. We've applied a bit of our human intelligence there that isn't captured. Then when we're trying to accomplish a particular task, maybe we'll look at something, we'll identify it, and then we'll decide to store it for later. Maybe we'll use our browser bookmarks, a platform like Evernote, or a read it later app like Pocket. In which case, we've applied that intelligence and we've decided to come back to something later, but that value is only relevant for us. Now another sphere is social curation, where we'll look at something and we'll decide to share it with someone else. It doesn't serve our immediate needs, but it might serve someone else's that we know, and we can assess their needs as well. And we'll decide to share that. Maybe we'll put it in an email, maybe we'll post it on our Facebook wall, maybe we'll tweet it to somebody. But for the most part, these buckets that we'll throw this information into have a hole in the bottom. Essentially, that value drains out the bottom. The half-life of information in most of these networks is measured in hours, if not days, which means whatever thought you put into that disappears very rapidly. So, how do we solve these problems? Well, after about a year and a half of overwhelming amounts of whiteboard fumes, several functional prototypes, exploring different strategies of tagging, keyword identification, and searching, what we've developed is a very simple mechanic that the application is built around, and it's called the node. Essentially, what a node is sort of a folder meets a feed. It's a persistent repository, which means it doesn't disappear over time. It's configurable in its privacy level, which means it could be your own personal bookmarks. It could be shared with specific individuals, like your coworkers. It could be shared across your friends graph, or the public in general. And you get to determine how things are arranged in this bucket. They're sortable, searchable, commentable. And by doing this, the application covers a large volume of use cases with just 2 clicks. So the idea is, with your different nodes, you can accommodate your own personal bookmarks, collaborative curation around topics that you and your friends or coworkers are focused on. And also, you have the most lightweight blog or RSS feed that's for node. And so that's the bookmarking side. Now, looking at this from the consumer side, I'm connected with a bunch of nodes that I'm collaborating on. I also have access to a bunch of public nodes in the same system that my bookmarks are stored. When I go in this to do a search, I can see what people around me within my social graph, or people who the system has validated as experts, rate for a particular topic area. So if I'm looking for recommendations of a particular style of music, for example, a YouTube search isn't going to do me much good. I might find someone's blog, I might find someone interesting on SoundCloud I can follow, but I'd much rather get recommendations from my friend who's a DJ in that style.
1 minute.
So how do you grow a system like this? Well, the good news is it's basically a sharing application. So we get to spin the knob on essentially the viral coefficient. Additionally, for the purposes of public nodes, people are generating these searchable assets. So organic search is something that's bringing users to the application. Additionally, if there are points in the growth curve where we need to prime the pump a little bit, we can focus on some different segments, personal productivity, team collaboration, education, etc. And how do you convert these users into dollars? Well, we're gathering some valuable data. Some of the platforms that I mentioned for personal productivity have carved out a path for premium membership options. Obviously, that's something that's available to us. We're collecting high-value data, actionable data from users. That's something that's valuable for ad retargeting. And finally, the area that we're focused on is the data play. Specifically, we can create very accurate correlations between different interest groups and users, and this helps marketers optimize their ad buys. As I mentioned at the beginning, I believe the application just went out to a closed group of beta testers last week. That's why it took me a couple months to get here. Currently, we're looking for a couple things. One, UI and UX resources, as well as an additional developer. It's a pretty sexy stack if you guys are into that kind of thing. And we're, after bootstrapping this for the last year and a half, we're actually entering into a round of angel funding. So if this is something that's up your alley, please come talk to me afterwards. Questions?